This world's full of sorrows that weigh your heart down, and sometimes it's too much to take. But I have a promise, the hope I have found. Oh, heaven's getting sweeter each day. In heaven there's no heartaches, no tears fill our eyes, no sadness, no sorrow, no painful goodbyes. We'll see loved ones there on streets of gold, and our dear Savior's face.
One street over there's a life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, that would have kept me from the one I have today.
1100 WSGI. My husband always says, talk whenever you've got the music off, because you can't hear you over the music. Right. That's something. Let me turn Bill's mic on. Hey, Bill, how are you doing?
I noticed that the other day, the music playing, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. And we were talking about this microphone. That's a good microphone. That's a sure mic, but the levels on it, I've got it pushed all the way up, so you're just going to talk right in the front of it there.
Time to send it in to Sure.
Yeah, so have them check it and see, why is this thing not picking up volume better? But it's a good quality sound. It's just not as loud as we want it. But Bill's nice and clear and loud, so I think we'll be good. And we've got a couple things going on today. First off, I invited Bill in because, like I said, I'm taking a couple of weeks off before school starts, and I'll be back the week before school starts. So I'm going to be off from Friday till the Monday. Like a full week before school starts. That last week of July, I'll be back on. Lee Marie's going to cover for me for a couple of weeks. And I talked to Dr. Weeks. He may come in that week that I come back just to kind of do a little back to school thing, but he's going to take off next week as well. But everything else I think is going to be on schedule. And I promised Lee Marie I was going to send her that schedule last night, and I didn't get it done. I'm sorry, Lee Marie. It's the first thing I'm going to do this morning when I get off the air. But Bill is in here. Bill's going to be in with Lee Marie on Monday for History Monday.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, you know what? I can't go this long without talking to Bill. And I had something I really want to talk to you about. And we've got Threshermen show coming in at 7:30 to talk to them. But because that's coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. But before I take a break this summer, I wanted to talk to you about this tragedy that happened in Texas. How in the world did they not see that coming, Bill?
Well, it was a difficult combination of confluence. They call it confluence, when something comes together. There's three major things that happened, which is very unusual in weather-wise anyway. And there's some false things being said around. There's some things, I think some facts that are being missed. But the main thing is people need to be more aware of weather. Yeah. And the weather lately has been different. It's we're hearing the 100-year flood, the 100-year rain, the 100-year weather systems a lot lately. And I think they start saying, well, when something happens unusual, it must be our 100-year or 500-year,
right,
so and so. But we hear that more often. We used to not hear that at all. But in this case, there were three main factors that caused this. First of all, there was a tropical depression down in Mexico called Tropical Depression Berry. And it was a low pressure system. Now, low pressure, your winds circulate counterclockwise. There was a high pressure system out in the Gulf. It rotates clockwise. So you get those side by side, it's like two little gears. They're going, and whatever goes in between them is going to be thrust, fast, and that happened to be moisture, water. There was a lot of water in the tropical storm. Then there was a lot of water coming in from the Pacific, and the jet stream was pushing it very quickly. So all three things happened, which brought a lot of water in right into that point in Texas. Now, here's the next thing. That town, Kerr County, Texas, is a lot of hills and mountains where the Guadalupe River runs through. So when a massive amount of water comes down on the mountain, it drains down to that river real quick. So that's how it could flood so quickly. And people there weren't used to that. It was, it's not something we've never seen before. It has happened, but it happened so fast. And those three systems working together, it was very organized. Organized system means it's more predictable than an unorganized system, a storm system. And then the story gets out that there weren't enough weather forecasters. That's not true. In fact, one weather station had more than they should have. They had 12 people working there, and one had 3. And it just, in a normal time, 3 is fine. When this thing comes up so fast, they start calling in forecasters to the weather service station. But when all of this is happening, it happens so fast. And you can imagine, I don't know, if anybody's listening, if they're ever interested in weather, they ought to call the Weather Service in Nashville and go visit. Now, then you can't visit over there when stuff is going on. There's too much happening. But when not anything going on, you can go over there and see how they do everything. They have big TV screens all over the place. And they look like they're not doing anything. But actually, each one is doing a different job. And they have to bring all this stuff together and analyze it and look at it and say, well, this could happen, this can cause this can cause this. And then they get together and say, this is what we think is going to happen. And most of the time, they're correct. And then you have a computer program, weather models, that look at past activities and say, well, when this happened, then this occurred. The weather models tell you that. They're not always accurate. So they're looking at weather models also and saying, well, when this happens, the weather module says this is going to occur, and it may not. And then people like us is watching the weather on the news and think, well, they don't know what they're talking about, But weather is a constantly, I always think of it as when I was a kid, we had a little pond out beside our house in the country, and we throw rocks in the pond. I'd love to watch the ripples and throw rocks in different places to make the ripples interact. And I thought, this is like weather. It's very confusing. You don't know what one ripple is going to do to the next ripple, and that's the way weather patterns work. But let me tell you about the water that fell down. There was 2 trillion gallons of water that fell across the Texas hill country. Remember, it's a hill country. Water's running down the hill fast into that river. And to give you a perspective of that, that's 11 million homes with water for 1 year, or 1.5 million Olympic pools
Wow.
of water. So what are you going to do with that water? It's going to take its course, like you always heard, when you're digging ditches. You can't stop water. You just have to cause it to go a different direction, dig another ditch. And unfortunately, there with the hill there next to the Guadalupe River, it's all washing down into that river. And now they're looking at things, well, we should have done this, we could have done this, we could have done that. We should do the same thing here. We may not have a flood problem like that because we don't have a hill country, but we have tornado problems. We have lots of other weather type significant things, and the problem, like I mentioned, people get lax in listening to the weather. But nowadays, notifications have changed. They didn't have anything in the old days, but now we have weather radios, which not everybody has. We have television, and you have 4 different local channels in Nashville, and they're a little bit different. It's I'll go sort of crazy. I'll watch 3 at one time. Watch them on the computer, on the television I have, and another one in the next room. And most of the time they agree, but sometimes you hear something, oh, I need to know about that. And of course, they're coordinating with the Weather Service in Nashville. They're picking up their radar information from them and all like that. But you really need to stay on top of things. And then an added thing that we have recently is social media. And of course, I sort of got into that a few years ago and thought I'd help, a little bit by giving weather forecasts. And my information comes from the Weather Service and radars. And you can, if you want to pay the money, you can get all kinds of weather services and radars and enhanced things. And I did in the past, and I stopped doing that. It got too expensive. But the weather radios plus social media. Social media is become real strong now. So you have the local EMS people that are on social media. You have the sirens. You have local television stations in Nashville. But, sometimes things are happening here that's not happening there. And the problem with radar out of Fort Campbell or Nashville, the Earth has a curvature. So the radar is shooting over us a lot of times. And if something's happening low level, like a rotation or a forming of a tornado, they may not see it in Nashville or Fort Campbell. And that's when weather spotters on the ground. And that's what I got in trouble a little time back because I reported something like that happening over an area in the county. And of course, they didn't see it. So there were no sirens or anything because nobody saw it, but had people sending me pictures of the clouds. And I looked at the radar and I could tell something could happen there. Well, when they sent me the pictures, I said, well, it is happening, but it's real low level, EF0. And, but anyway, you need people on social media sending pictures. The weather radars are not going to show everything. They're going to show, stuff happening in a higher scale. You really need to understand weather, people should, of how thunderstorms form, how lightning forms, what causes it, what causes the flooding. In this case, this is going to be something studied by weather personnel for years, I think, of this thing happening. And there were something that was called a mesoscale convective vortex. And that's a smaller rotation is happening in a larger low rotation. And a lot of times that's just ignored because it doesn't do anything much. This time it did because of a combination of things that were happening in the weather situations in Texas. Then all of a sudden we thought, well, it's coming our way. It didn't. It went north of us, And then the hurricane out in the Atlantic Ocean, it hit North Carolina. So here we are looking, well, when is it going to hit us? And it didn't because everything was happening around us. And again, I have seen so many times lately storms heading toward us and it splits off. It goes north in Kentucky, south in the southern part of the state, and it misses us. And I don't know why that happens. We have some unusual things, but we've been very fortunate. We've had a tornado, a few years ago in Springfield, but very fortunate that we hadn't had any really things bad happening lately. But it's going to. It will. It's just the chances are percentages that we will catch something, and we just need to be more observant and be willing to help others. Get in organizations, learn, it's all kinds of information on the internet where you can learn about storms, learn about weather. And when you know some of these basic things of how weather works, how it forms and all, and you're watching the forecast on television or your little radar, I've said a lot of times radar scope is a program I use on my cell phone at home. It's $10 a year. That's cheaper than dirt, And it'll show all the stuff coming up, but it won't give you predictions but there's some others that will that cost you more money. But instead of being afraid, so many people are just almost frozen. They're so afraid of this stuff that be informed and educated on weather so you can sort of have an idea of what's going on. Then you got to have preparedness, which we're not doing much of that around here right now. We need to have shelters. There are some of the EMS locations, I understand yesterday, are putting in storm shelters in their fire departments out in the county and things, you know. We need to have education. We need to inform people quickly. Used to, you know, people would listen to WDBL because it was live, and they would give school reports, weather reports. That doesn't happen anymore. We have social media that is there, but you have people throwing in stuff that's not accurate, and it throws you off a little bit, and then people start making comments, negative comments, and all that. That doesn't do any good. We just need to work together. And if you're just somebody that doesn't know anything, get in as a volunteer and work with some of these organizations where people can give money toward helping people survive or get over these things when they're flooded. And we do have some areas in the county that do flood easily. And we just need to be aware of these situations and places and be aware of people's needs so that we can be part of that. Instead of just sitting back and watching television, we need to get active in being part of, being involved with all the stuff that's happening, Red Cross or whatever. Pick your organization, you know, your church, how they're doing it or whatever. I know Buzzy Poole, our mayor, is trying to figure out how we can have areas to go to in case of storms. Like right now, the YMCA is a good place. They have a basement and the building is well built, and as long as they're open, you can go there during storms. But if it's in the middle of the night, we don't have a place.
Right.
And that's difficult to do because there's rules and regulations on that. There's some churches that just will not fit the model. Maybe they don't have a basement. Maybe their building is metal. You know, it's just we just need to work on that. And everybody needs to work together, not just be critical of EMS or critical of social media or critical of what the mayor can't do or can do, but we just all need to work together.
I agree. And Buzzy is he's listening this morning. He said hello here on social media, but
Good.
That's something he and I had spoken about. And that when you look at the tornado event that, you know, took out my hometown, they warned them. I mean, everybody knew it was coming. And I mean, It was not something that saved lives, hands down, because, you know, my cousin whose house got blown away, they were in the basement. That, you know, the candle factory, they should have evacuated. They know. I mean, that's hands down. And so they saw it coming and they knew it was significant. But I remember they were telling us too. And I was out with my husband and my boys, and we were out doing whatever we were doing, and we were just kind of in the back of our mind going, oh, it won't happen here. Well, it didn't, but then when we realized what was happening, you know, very close to us, we started that's the thing. We just don't take it. We get busy, and we don't take it seriously.
There's nothing going to happen.
And you think, oh, well, but we've got to get better at paying attention and doing the right. The whole idea of what happened down in Texas, we all just look at it and go, how in the world did they not see that coming? Because I've talked about this a little bit yesterday. I live on Carrs Creek that comes in by Sulphur Fork. So when the rains come, I have a lake in my yard, and I wouldn't dare build a dwelling down in that hollow. Now, there was a house when we first bought that place. Now, we did try to put a bridge up a couple of times, and it finally went down because you just can't. It's just too much water. But there was, when we bought that place, Bill, there was a little house down kind of in the valley there that I can't imagine that if somebody lived there, it wasn't flooded, you know, at least once or twice a year.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but it looked like somebody, you know, it was just kind of a shack house, but, you know, I mean, we tore it down, but it was just, I can't imagine living there because of the flood waters.
That reminds me of something else I was going to bring up later is our planning and zoning.
Yeah.
We really need some expert opinions, and they probably have it at the county level and city. When you build all these houses that we're talking about, we need to take into account of where is the water going. You can't stop it, as I said. You can just only direct it. So with all the building going on and the property being farmland being taken up, where is the water going to go? That's something that needs to be planned, and enhanced emergency notifications too, and just so many things like that. And we need education from people, promoting preparedness planning, emphasizing the dangers, soil conservation, looking at the soil. If clay soil is there, it's not going to absorb water. It's going to run off of clay. Has it rained a lot, which we had this a few weeks ago? We rained a lot one week, and then here comes another rain. The ground is full of water.
Just too saturated.
It's going to go somewhere, and even our basements, we all know about that, how water is going to come in there probably. So we just need an enhancement of promotion and education about storms, because, what kills me, what bothers me is when it happens, they come back with critical things they should have done. Down in Texas, they had argued about enhanced warnings, and they didn't do it because they have this problem. They knew they had this problem with the mountains and the water and all. They knew they had it in the past, but they said, it costs too much money to put in enhanced sirens and warnings. So look what happened. Right now I read, saw it's more 104 people.
It's incredible. All
and,
those kids.
And more they haven't accounted for yet. So, how much money should we spend? I don't know. That's up to the city and county government. What should we do? What kind of sirens, or where should they be? And of course, areas of flooding that's possible, like Kerrville, they should have different types of stuff than we would have in Springfield, because they have a weakness of floods there. We have a weakness maybe of something else here.
Well, tornadoes,
Our buildings, our construction, our land use, all of that, they need to come together and say, what if, and take that. Because once you build a building, once you put all these houses in, you can't take them down. And it's going to be difficult directing water or construction of the house. When my pet peeve is bringing these builders in from out of state. We don't know them. We don't know what they do, and they build something, and they leave, and we find out after a while it's shoddy construction. That has happened in Robinson County.
Oh, yeah.
And, how do you solve that? Well, our leaders have to get together and decide. It's probably going to cost more money, but it's going to cost us more money in the long run because of our taxes. If you put in, I was at the county court meeting last month, and they were talking about a subdivision over in White House on a road I didn't even know existed. And I looked at it while they were talking. I looked at it on my phone. I thought, that's almost a one-lane road they're putting these $500,000 and $600,000 houses on. And they said, well, the taxes off the houses we'll pay to build a road. I thought, well, it's got to come first, chicken and egg here. The road's got to come before the houses, because you got all this traffic now. Now, the 2,500, 3,000 houses behind us here, that's at least 25 to 3,000 cars or trucks, and most likely double that. That's going to be running through 49 to South Main, all through that. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle that? But once you start building, and it'll take them 15, 20 years to complete that thing, like most of them are. But your tax money has got to be here now to have all these infrastructures, your water and gas and roads and stuff. So therefore, we're going to have an increase in taxes on me and you, and the rest of us lived here all our life. We're paying for it because these guys coming. I'd rather have the money go to local contractors myself. I've been in this business and flooring. I'd rather see the money go locally than somebody in Texas or Timbuktu or something.
Right.
So I don't know somebody smarter than me can figure that out, how to do all that. But it should be figured, and we should look at other places and see how they did it and do it accordingly. There's already been mistakes in Robinson County, and we need to study a lot to see that we don't make those mistakes again. It's messed up some communities, and we just need to be real cautious. We can't stop people from coming in. We can just regulate it and manage it properly. That's what we need to do. We can't stop it. But I'm on a high horse here.
Well, but that's something that I just knew that people would want to hear about, because we all look at that and we think, okay, it can't happen here, and maybe that exact event can't happen here because we don't have a Guadalupe River coming through here, and we don't have the terrain that they had, and so it's something different. But we absolutely know what the catastrophic things that happen with our tornadoes that come through, and when we do have some flash flooding, because we do have some areas that have been built up that are subject to flash flooding that you don't really think about. And I was talking yesterday. I said, when they came in and put the 45 highway in next to the farm I grew up on, they did kind of a little levee lake thing that caused land that my family owns, that my dad had spent tons of money tiling to put like an underground drainage system, that ended up not being able to handle the capacity of the water that came in because they backed it up, And so you've got to be mindful of what's going on up the creek, down the river,
Right.
up the river. And it can change things that, you
Walk
weren't
out and
expecting.
Look at your neighborhood
Yeah.
and say, what is most likely our weakness?
Yeah.
And infrastructure and land management is up for the government people to look at, but we need to look at it too. When you build a house and say, well, are we in a low spot? Where are we? Just like down below your house,
Right.
somebody had a house. I can see why it's not there
Yeah.
now, but we have to look at those things nowadays. Used to, we had large expanse of empty land, didn't have to worry about stuff like that. But now everybody's so close together that it is something to discuss and look at.
And more people are wanting to build and wanting
Right.
to find places to build it, because
you
one
know.
thing they're not making any more of is the land.
Right.
So, that is the thing. I'll tell you, I've got Bill Jones in here. We're expecting a bunch of folks from the Threshermen show. I have not seen them. I kind of thought they would be popping in here by now. They may be out there. I don't think so. Tell you what, Bill, if you don't mind, let me go ahead and I'm going to do my ad for Barry and Rebecca. Just pop your head out there and see if they're out there, and we'll make the switch if they are. But if not, come on in here, and I'm sure we can find some things to talk about until they make their way in. Do you see anybody out there? No. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and talk about Barry and Rebecca. Come on in here. Just leave the door open since they're down across the hall. And so I think they'll know where to come. The young man is the grandson Jake to Charlie Bumpus, and so he's the one that owns all the tractors. And so he knows what he's doing. So hopefully they'll be here about pretty soon, but we'll continue talking with Bill. I tell you what, let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. We're talking about land and what you need to know. And they're so good at what they do. They're not going to let you come in here and buy land without understanding the terrain a little bit. If there's acreage for sale, I guarantee you Barry's going to know if it's in the floodplain. Barry and Rebecca are going to know if you've got some flooding that's going to go on, because they've researched the property that they handle, and they make sure they can answer your questions. They present the property that they present to sell in such a beautiful way because of the expertise of marketing that Barry brings to the table, as an expert, having spent 17 years as a media marketing vice president, understanding photography, videography, doing drone footage, walkthrough tours, all those things. If you've got property for sale, it's going to be seen in the absolute best light. There's no chance that people are going to miss it and not know that your property is available if they're checking the zip code. That's how they do the searches. If they're wanting to maybe live in this area, they see what's available in the zip code. Maybe they'll pull up street addresses and say, hey, is there anything around that area? And that's how they find property nowadays. And he's going to make sure yours pops off the page. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She is, she's been uniquely qualified and uniquely trained to make sure that if you're older and you don't really know what you want to do with the family land, and you're not really sure if you want to sell it all or just a portion of it, or maybe build another house on it, do some rental property. She's experienced all of that, and she can help you with those issues. If you're somebody that just wants to be a realtor, They would love to mentor you into the real estate game. You can connect with them many ways. You can find them on social media. They each have unique web pages, unique Facebook pages where you can find them. You can go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy.robertsoncounty.com. Rebecca's phone number is 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. And they are, again, specializing in Robertson County properties, but also buying and selling the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Great friends, wonderful place to check in if you need help with real estate. That's Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. And when you talk to them, let them know you turn.
Let me say this. You think about flooding and you think, well, probably the most people killed in flooding are trapped in their house. But no, the majority of people killed in floods are in their automobile.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have this, don't, turn around when you get into a flood. You think a car, if it's not over the top of the wheel, it can go through it. That's not true. It'll float a car away.
Oh, my goodness,
Just
yeah.
maybe 6 or 8 inches of water.
Yeah.
And but what we need, we need professional people to look at our situation of whatever it is, our building, our land management, development, and we look at people who are, want to get involved, and they can do that too, can organize where people can get involved and put their opinion in. This is what I think, this is what we ought to do, and then get involved and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen. We're just not, we should be doing it more here and other places too. But with all the influx of new people, it really needs more. And people don't, they're not talking to my neighbor all day. He's been here for several years. I mentioned Barren Plains. He said, "Where is that?"
Yeah. Well, it's like Tommy Marsh was in last week, and we were talking. I was talking about Bernard Farms, Custom Cuts and Market, and I said it's in Orlinda, and he's like, and I think he'd heard of the name Orlinda, but he just didn't really know where it was, that kind of thing. And so all these little towns, I mean, if you're new to the area, there's a lot to learn, a lot to learn. But we're talking with Bill Jones, and what you said about the getting together, or kind of let's kind of circle back to that, because we mentioned that Buzzy is trying to get it organized where people understand.
Trying to do that.
Yeah.
It's a difficult, not as easy as it looks like on the surface.
Right. But where do you go? I mean, our home is, fortunately, we're kind of down in a valley. And so we have the natural, if a tornado is coming through, we have the natural protection, I think, of the hills, those kinds of things. So I don't worry as much about it, but I've learned to pay more attention, because of what happened in my hometown. But for somebody that lives we had the situation in Madison when the tornado that came through Springfield here and took out Holman's and the oil change and all of that. That same tornado just was devastating in Madison, and it went through an area where there were trailer homes, and people died.
Yeah.
And what do those people do? Where do they go when they're like, okay,
right.
we're in this situation. What do we do?
In mobile homes,
Yeah.
manufactured homes,
Can you imagine?
they need to go somewhere. They don't need to stay there.
Yeah, and so we've got to have a place for them to go when those threats are significant.
My wife was talking about the little storm shelters that's setting up in the little fire halls and thing around. And she said, well, everybody could go there. I said, they don't hold but 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And her place where she works at the Springfield Gas plant over on Central, there's a metal building, and it starts, when the wind gets up, it starts moving around. You can hear it. And I said, you got 60 people there. I think they have a 30 or something. You can't, there's nothing to cram them into there. It's something to think about and plan for. But just like this tornado that happened a few years ago in Springfield, it hit Memorial Boulevard. Nobody could go in or out. It was stopped right there. So you got to figure on, where can I go? How can I get around this? You got to plan all this stuff out, not only individually, but, emergency people. And you really need some people that are trained to do water rescue, trained to do house-to-house things, And we really need to just constantly work on that. And then if you do that, then people say, well, we've never had anything happen like that. Well, you got to be ready for it. Whatever, if it doesn't happen, great. God bless you. But if it does happen, you don't want to be caught shorthanded. And it's just, you need the education. People, and I find out on social media, people do not understand storms. They're more afraid of something than if they learn about it. And I try to put stuff on internet and Facebook to describe how things happen and thunderstorms and lightning and da-da-da. And in that way, I think I don't intend to scare anybody, but I just want you to be educated on how it occurs so you know what to avoid and plan ahead. If something happens on Memorial Boulevard, let's make how are we going to get around from our house to where we need to go? And, we need to promote all this. And it's just a lot going on that could be happening.
You mentioned lightning, and that's something that I think people do not take seriously enough. And we were at a family reunion up in the Upper Peninsula over the weekend, and a storm came in right in the middle of it, and we're all hunkered down under the tent, holding the tent down, trying to make sure it doesn't blow away.
Metal tent pole.
Oh yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, I thought, okay, and I mean, there was a few of us in there. We were fervently praying because we knew what could happen, and there were lightning strikes all around us. I had my son, that's kid plays baseball. They have this lightning strike app. There's a lightning strike app. I don't know what it's called, but
I have it.
where you can see lightning strikes.
Right.
I said, can you please pull up the lightning strikes in Norway, Michigan? And he sent it to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, because once I heard rain, I don't mind getting wet, but boy, when that lightning starts, I'm getting undercover because I don't mess around with that stuff.
Lightning can do anything. I don't
better
care how much
believe
good
it.
grounding you have.
Yep.
It'll, just like the typical thing is when they had a rocket ready to go down on the rocket pad in Texas, I think, and they have all these tall towers around the launch system so the lightning would hit then, and they've got wires around them. Lightning avoided all of that and hit the base of the rocket.
That's crazy.
It's just, you just never know what it's going to do.
No, you don't. Don't play around with it, guys. I mean, we had no business being out in those tents whenever that storm came through on Saturday, and just by the grace of God.
Don't get under a tree.
Yeah, we were under trees, under tents, hanging on to tent poles, and I was just thinking, Lord, please just have mercy on us and don't let us get popped.
Historical event. It happened out toward Cross Plains, Orlando area, where a storm came up and the workers in the field got under a tree.
Oh.
It lightning struck the tree and killed several of them.
Oh, it's incredible.
Maimed several others. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing is something new to us now we need to prepare for. There's a lot. I'm a drone pilot, and there are a lot of people with drones. And when emergencies come up, people bring out their drones. They want to fly around, take pictures. Well, they had one in Texas. Drone ran into a helicopter, down there. So I guess it's got to be some kind of, regulations about using drones during emergencies. That's something new to us that we don't expect. We're constantly running into new things that we hadn't thought of. But social media is what everybody's got on their phone and on their computers. That's something we really need to enhance and use, take advantage of.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing it. And, everybody can get these little storm warnings on their phone. And you have alerts, you have warnings, you have all kinds of things like that, and you got to know what each one means, so you'll know. And the Weather Service National doesn't do spot forecasting, and the TV stations don't. Spot forecasting is just for this area. I noticed the other day. Well, I had a half-inch rain this morning, of 0.45 inches, and up in Bowling Green, they had almost an inch. Up there in Clarksville, had half inch, and it just and a guy over on Airport Road tells me all the time his is totally different than mine, and it does that. Education will teach you how that it can rain on one side of your car and on the other. And we just need educated, not being critical. Being critical doesn't help a thing, but just being educated and swap information and enhancement and land management and just we're too quick to be critical, and I hate that because it just forms hatred and stuff, and you don't need that. But the drone thing came to my mind. I thought this is something new coming up because a lot of people with drones.
Oh, it's incredible, and had not heard about the drone crashing into the helicopter. Was there anything that happened as a result of it? I mean,
No, it just destroyed the drone, but
of course,
you
but
know,
was it somebody
could be-
privately that was flying the drone?
Yeah,
That just was okay. That's the thing.
and you don't know what.
Yeah.
They come up over an airport or something. This you're not. It's illegal to do that, but we're gonna have to think about that and see what we can and can't do.
Well, and drones saved some lives already because they
will.
found them. It's just like
But it needs to be coordinated.
we were with our son last night that builds drones down in Huntsville and talking to him about this, and they were talking about how efficient the drones are in rescues, and he was talking specifically about some of that stuff, and it was interesting to hear, but. In the same sense, all these novice that have no business flying a drone in an emergency situation.
Well, what will help in all this is a planned, rapid coordination response. In other words, get people together. Let's talk about this. Let's get the drone pilots together. Let's get everybody, instead of being just one guy running one organization for the county or city, get people together and say, hey, this is what is new now is a drone situation, and we cannot, we're going to have to be real careful with drones and be organized with this thing. Not that we want to outlaw them, but you got to, people got to use some sense.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of times that is lacking.
Right. I know that's
areas.
the thing. Common sense is not very common, and that's a problem in a lot of
relief
things.
organizations. We've got to support them. And they can do a lot. Everybody has a niche in all of this. The city government, county government, relief organizations, individuals, implementation of how we're going to do things, planning. We need to plan about how and what are we going to do? What is our responsibility? How can I help? How can I get in the way? And how can I not be critical and be helpful to people? What can I do to help somebody after the fact, after it occurs and all that? We can't just sit back and wait for our local government to take care of people. That's not what we should be doing. We should be thinking of each other and caring for them.
Now, how quickly did the floodwaters pull back down in Texas? Did it go? Because at my house, when I have a flash flood, but of course I live on a creek, not a river. But when the flood happens at my house, I mean, within a day, it's the water's back in its banks.
Yeah, it does.
Was that
then
kind
it
of the same
becomes bigger
situation?
somewhere else, like down in Clarksville.
Yeah.
Days later, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and then it goes down.
Then it'll go down. So I'm thinking
If you watch
on that river
videos of this Kerr, Texas, with these guys standing on this road next to this causeway, it was amazing how fast the water was coming down through there. It's just amazing. You can stand there and go, "Ooh, and all of a sudden it's 10 feet more than it was a few seconds ago.
I just haven't been able to watch it so much because of the children. I just and the
I know.
It just rips my heart out.
Bad.
And so because whenever you're watching just the details of just the event, then you just see all those precious kiddos, and they're the same age as my oldest grandson, and that would be his
of course,
peer.
they say, well, what if we've done this and what if we've done that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just awful.
Don't worry about that. Organize. Get people working together.
Right.
That's my big thing is that don't wait and depend on somebody else or some organization. But just like Buzzy trying to come up with shelters, work with him. Don't crise him or anybody else. Just try to help. Some way churches need to jump in and say, can you use my facility?
Yeah.
Some of them are not saying anything, and they should. They should get, and some of them are not capable. They just don't have the building to do that. But afterwards, they can, be joined in with disaster relief. Churches can help a lot.
Our building in Madison is used we've had several situations where there's been a fire or tornadoes, or I think they were using our building as a shelter when the tornado came through Madison. I know we had an apartment fire when I was working there full time. that people lived in our building because they lost their
yeah.
home because of an apartment fire.
Well, that thing's need to be worked out.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
we have that at our congregation. When you've got some of these congregations, they have just, a handful of staff. Who's going to come and open the building? Who's going to
Right,
do all that? That when you look at trying to actually facilitate that, you've got to have that emergency plan. Somebody that's on call to when this happens. Who's going to go and open the building? You have to have a list of people, because what if the person who's planning on doing it happens to be out of town, or you've
Right,
got to
yeah.
have
Those kind
you've
of
got to
things need to
have
be
that
thought
call
out.
list. And if you get a call list of about 5 or 6 deep, then
Right.
it'll be good. I think that the Threshermen people are coming in. I don't know. I've been messaging Charlie, and I'm like, where are they? And they said, well, they're close, and it's about 10 till. Then I heard the bell ring, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm hoping they're just going to come on in here. I think they probably are just about here. Bill, any parting thoughts? And we'll try to see if we can't get them in here for a
Well,
few minutes before we wrap
My
up.
bottom line is try to work with everybody. If you know somebody, there's a lady down the street from me, I call her and tell her what the weather situation. She doesn't have a weather radio.
Okay.
She doesn't get on a computer. She's older. You just got to work with
Watch
people.
out for your neighbors.
Watch
out
for your neighbors. And help people.
And talk to Buzzy, Mayor Poole. We'll get Mayor in here. I don't imagine I'll have a chance to talk to him before I take my little summer break here. But when I get back, maybe I'll have him on my list of folks to call in and just kind of see where he is on this. And I don't know, I may even have it. I know I don't have any slots open this week. But with that said, I'm gonna let you go and check, because I heard the bell and it may be locked. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, and so maybe somebody locked the door, but. Okay, well, that's the problem right there. Somebody rang a bell a second ago. Normally, that door does not get locked while I'm on the air, so we're just all kinds of fun things going on today. But that's okay. Bill's going to go let them in, and we're going to talk to the folks over at the Threshermen Show. The Threshermen Show is not this weekend. At first, I had it thinking it was this. It's next week. It starts next week on Thursday, but we're going to let them come in and let Bill make his way out. We've talked about Bernard Farms yesterday, but let me just y'all come on in here. I'm going to let Bill get his stuff, and y'all come on in, and we're going to talk for a few minutes. Thank you, Bill. And I will talk to you when I get back. Okay. All right. Thank you, friend. Come on in here and sit down, guys, and pull these microphones to you. So, oh my goodness. See, you got little Jake there. He said there was 2-year-old Jake. It was not the young man that's got all the tractors. Which one of the boys has all the tractors?
Grayson. Yes.
So yeah, go ahead and pull that microphone to you. When I saw grandson, I didn't see 2-year-old, but so he's not the tractor one. He's fine.
No.
Don't worry about that little
Sure?
one. He is
Okay.
perfectly fine. But we'll need you to talk right in that microphone, guys. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for
Interrupting your morning, I tell you.
traffic
But,
was crazy.
And that's what Bill and I were just talking about, is all the new folks coming to town. It's going to be busier and busier.
Yes, it
And
is.
so,
Yes, it is.
so we're going to need you right on top of that microphone. That one doesn't pick up as well as that one. So, talk to me about the Threshermen Show and the schedule. It's not this week. It's next week.
Next weekend, and it starts at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. So it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. 8 a.m. gates open. Thursday is, we used to just do a startup day, started at noon. We changed it to 8 a.m. because people were coming in the gates early. We've got a lot going on. They're setting up. We're going to thrash probably once, and we'll sawmill. They're getting everything going. We have a big mule pull. No, it's actually a horse pull.
The
Horse is
pull.
Thursday.
The horse is on
horse.
Thursday. The
Big
big
horse.
boys too, the Belgians
Yes.
and the
Big ones.
Percherons.
Yes.
Those are the ones my husband and I are just crazy about.
Excited
We
about,
love them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a pedal pull. We're doing a pedal pull this year on Thursday.
Okay. Now,
night
what
for
does
the
that mean?
That's the little kids.
The little kids are going to do
It's gonna
their
be
pedal
cute.
tractors.
So
I
they're
love it.
excited about that. So
That'll be fun.
um,
So we've got that on Thursday night, but we're going to have 3 full days.
3 full days.
Wow, because
3
normally, like you said, it's always been kind of Thursday, a soft open,
Right.
and a little something on Thursday night. But we're going to have a full day Thursday,
Full day
Friday,
Thursday.
and Saturday.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
man.
Yes. So we used to do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Right.
and then it backed off to Friday and Saturday. But we're full day on Thursday.
Okay, so what's going to happen? Are you still going to do your dinner on the grounds on Sunday like
Yes,
you normally do?
Yes, ma'am. At 11 a.m. on Sunday.
Okay.
And we've got the parade at 10 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Okay.
And of course, the tractor pulls on Friday and Saturday nights. And we've got mule pull on Friday, pony pulls on Saturday. So,
Okay.
and mule pull Saturday night.
Do you know what time is the pony pool Saturday?
Pony pulls are at 1 and 7 p.m.
1 and
We've got
7.
2.
Okay.
So two. I
Okay.
guess it's 2 classes. I'm
Okay.
not as up on that. Is it 2 classes of pony pulls or just 2 different?
I don't know. Come and see.
Well, because my husband's, I mean, we've got my grandsons, my 2 grandsons. They've got a birthday party on Saturday, but we'll be able to get there for the 7 o'clock.
Good.
It's during the day, but we'll be able to
Yes.
get there. So I'm just in my head going, okay, well, Mark will want to go to that. He'll want to
Right.
go to that. He'll be there when that. Trying to work our schedule out too.
Right.
You know, so that's cool. That's cool.
And then the tractor pull is 5 on Friday and Saturday at 1. And of course, you know, they go until they're done pulling. So
That's a good time.
just pray for no rain.
Yes. This has been the weirdest year. We've had so much rain at all of our events.
So much rain.
Yes, it has been. Of course, now, if it hits just right, the farmers are loving it, and we're proud for them to have a good year.
Absolutely.
You know, but we do want to get through this event. And I mean, is the weather? Can you see that far out? I mean, that's a 10-day
10
forecast.
day, I
is it?
think it's just, there's a chance of rain every day so far, but that's just through till
Yeah.
Thursday. So
That's just it. So we'll see what happens. But so if people want to come in, can you get, is it a 1-day ticket or is it an all event ticket, or how are you doing
it's
the
just,
tickets?
it's a 1-day ticket. It's $10 for admission
Okay.
a day. Kids under 12 are free.
Okay.
So that makes it a little easier with families.
Because we at one time had a ticket where you could go all weekend, didn't we?
Yes.
And so that's no more. We're going to do a $10 ticket per day. Honestly and truthfully, guys, I get
That's
it
cheap.
because I've been there many times where I just thought we're not getting all the gate
Right.
because people, you know what I mean? It just didn't seem like we were getting all the gate coming in. And I know your event needs your gate money because that's how you pay for stuff. But I have been there before where maybe we had bought our ticket on Thursday night. And we were, you know, and then I'm just like, who's paying where and all of that. So I'm glad to hear y'all doing that because I know you need your gate money.
That's where we make our money, and
Yeah.
we're a nonprofit, so I mean
Yes.
everything just goes right back into the show. So
And it's so much fun.
it is.
Talk to me about vendors. We're going to have vendors, right?
We,
So who all's coming?
Oh, good.
Everybody?
Everybody. Leslie Phelps is our new flea market crafts person.
Okay.
She has done a great job. All of her, she's just about got every space filled, which we're
Okay.
just tickled to death about.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of new people coming in. She's just got so many new vendors. We've got good food that's going to be there. Of course, it's always good.
Mhm.
The barbecue and all the trucks that come
Amish
in.
donuts.
I'm
you know what
assuming
I'm
that
talking
Yes,
about.
I do. I do.
Oh, I'm telling you, Amish or Mennonite, I don't know, but they're so
So good. So
So
we've-
good.
We've got a lot of people. We've still
Yeah.
got the antique cars coming in. So we're really
It's a
excited.
fun time.
It is a fun time, and it's a great thing for the kids to see.
It's where I get my milled corn because
Yes.
if you don't, I love to make homemade pretzels, and one of the way you're supposed to make homemade pretzels is rather than spraying your paint, you're supposed to put like coarse
Cornmeal.
grain cornmeal,
Mhm.
and then put your pretzels on that, and then there's a little bit of that coarse cornmeal on the back of it. That's how you're supposed to do it. You can't find coarse ground cornmeal.
It's hard.
You
Yes.
can't. I can't. I've not been able to find it except at the Threshermen show.
Yes.
So I come out once a year, get my cornmeal
For the year.
for the year. So when because I take and keep it in my freezer,
Yes.
so it's fresh.
Yes.
But that's where I get my coarse ground cornmeal, and they'll be there milling
will.
and it's the best stuff. I mean, it's
is.
just so good.
It is.
It is just so good, and you can I get the grit grain because they've got it where it's a little bit more fine, but I
Finer
want the
or
real coarse.
grit.
Yeah,
Mhm, the coarse.
I want the
grit.
coarse ground, and so that's just my tip, y'all. If you want coarse ground cornmeal that you might need, and if
right.
you've never made homemade pretzels, you don't know what you missing. But that's you need that for that to do it, really properly. What else are we missing that you want to make sure we get in this? We don't have as much time, but that's okay. And maybe Lee Marie will get you guys in next week. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off.
Okay.
I just haven't taken any time off all summer, really.
I
So I'm going to
understand.
take a couple of weeks off before school starts. And so Lee Marie's going to be covering the next couple of weeks starting Friday. And so maybe she can get you guys in next week, the week of the event. I don't know what she has planned on her calendar, but just to kind of talk a little bit more about specifics. But what is anything else that you want to make sure people know about?
We're just the same. We do the wheat thrashing, comes in at 11, 1, and 3. Sawmilling is at 10, 2, and 4 on Friday and Saturday. Just love to have the kids come up and ask questions. So many people are sometimes they don't want to come up and ask questions. We love to answer questions because that's why we're there, is to inform.
Yeah, this is an educational event. It's
Yeah,
fun.
it really is.
And that's what I like about it too. Is we're so far removed from the farm, as a society, and the farmers now are all about efficiency, and as they should be. They're trying to put food on their family's table and everybody else's at the same time. But at one point, every piece of equipment on that property next week was the latest and greatest.
I know.
And, to appreciate where you're at is an agriculture society. You kind of had to nod your head to the past
I agree.
a little bit. And it's all about education, and education for the young and the old and as well. So
The engineering that they did at that time is absolutely remarkable.
It really
for
is.
what they had, and to see how far it's come in an agricultural society is amazing. And so many kids don't get to see any of that at any point in time. I mean, we're around kids a lot that have never been face to face with a cow or a horse.
I know.
So to be able to go up and actually see that kind of up close is really special.
I think so too. And then to see them pull and see, and just to be around the horses. Horse pulls are just something that my husband grew up with, and he absolutely loves it. And it's just, if the power of those big boys that you're going to see on Thursday night will blow your mind. And then those ponies too.
Oh, absolutely.
And the way they work together, and it's just seeing that and seeing what goes into those teams.
Right.
And I
to
think
know
it's
that
gonna be
they
just a
were
great time.
used for their strength for so long, pulling logs and pulling to make the wheat bales, their hay bales, and things like that. It's just amazing.
Yeah, they were the latest and greatest too.
At the
It's not
time.
just about
Better believe it.
Yeah, it's not just about the motors and the engines and all that. Those horses were a big part of our agriculture society as well.
And they helped. They helped take the railroad across the plains and everything. So we have to, you have to give credit to all of them. And then our show does a nod to the whole circle.
I think so.
So
It's beautiful. And a lot of the Mennonites and the Amish community still use those horses.
Absolutely.
And it's fascinating to watch.
Absolutely.
they
and
come and
see.
ask us questions. Sometimes they're like, okay, how did you do this to get, or where did you get this part for that? And how did you do this? Because they still use the equipment. And, and we ask questions of them also. So
I've actually got a couple of horse callers that were, because my husband's family, they use the horses to do logging whenever we've got pictures of his dad behind horses logging. So we've got some old collars that have just gotten torn up, and I'm going to have them restore them for me.
Right.
And I'll bet you they can,
absolutely.
They can.
Oh, absolutely.
And just my dad used to tell the story of, he taught himself to tie his shoes behind a plow horse. I mean, because you went to the fields when they were young, during his generation. And so this is part of our heritage. It's something that I love what you said about it's educational.
It is
Very educational.
And and there's, like I said, you have the young ones coming and asking questions and interested in all the things, but you have the older folks as well, that they've seen all this. They've seen it
Oh, yeah.
progress, and I love it just sitting around. I'm married into this. I'll be honest.
yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, I didn't know this show existed till I married into it.
I
and
love
so
it.
I get to
great.
sit back sometimes and watch and listen, and the older gentlemen and ladies as well, they'll say, I remember that. I remember that.
Isn't that cool?
This is how we did it. Well, we didn't do it like that. And so it's nice to just sit back sometime and listen. There's just something for everybody. There's
I love
something for
it.
everybody, and it's educational, but also a throwback to as well. So
I love it. I love it. How long have you? We're basically out of time, but I'm gonna give us a couple of minutes since we had got stuck in traffic. So, how long has your family been involved in this?
My grandfather was a charter member.
Okay.
So this is the 55th show. So we've been in it for 55 years.
So, did Charlie marry into it too?
Charlie married into it. So
See, I didn't know that. I didn't
Charlie
know it
married
was
in.
your family. I assumed it was his.
no, Charlie married in.
Oh, my
so it
goodness.
was my grandfather's
That's
steam
great.
engine and separator that are at the show.
That's cool.
So
I did
yes.
not see. I
So
learned something.
I
new.
grew up down there, so I've been to 54 shows. So
Bless your heart.
yeah, but
That's wonderful. What a fun
it
legacy,
is.
though.
It is, and it's just for us, it's family.
Yeah.
We're not related to. We are related to some, but most of them they're just our extended family. So
I
we
love it.
So.
I love it. Sounds a lot like the fair board. They're kind of the same thing. They kind
Absolutely,
of have that same camaraderie. Now, before we wrap it up, what about the pavilion thing that they had to rebuild?
It is
it was the
rebuilt.
engine.
It was.
What was it that happened? Because it was something that got
we had a
damaged
tree,
with a storm.
We had a tree
Yeah.
fall
Okay.
on our. We have two large engines under that shed.
Okay.
Stationary
They
engines.
stayed. They
steam
stayed
engines.
there, right?
And the shed has been completely rebuilt. It's beautiful. It looks
Wonderful.
great. One of the engines is still not ready. We've got.
Okay.
It had a lot of
You gotta
damage.
find parts and
Got a lot of
all
damage. We're
that.
going to have to make parts for it. The other one will be up and running.
Awesome.
The big wheel will not be up and running this year.
Okay.
Hopefully next year or the next it
Okay.
will be set to go. But this year we will have steam under that shed. That's
Awesome.
the steam shed.
Yes, that was the
So-
thing last year.
We were
is
trying to raise money
raising
for
money
it.
for that. So that's good. And are you still raising money because you've still got work to do, or do you think you've got the financial?
Right
are
now,
y'all
I
still-
mean, we'll take any donations
Sure, of
anybody wants to
course.
give us, but
Okay.
because all the donations go back into the show. But the
Okay.
steam shed is done. It's
Okay.
been piped for steam.
Good.
We've had so many of our people have been up there running pipe and
Yeah.
getting it ready to go.
Okay, well, good
and
deal.
It's beautiful. We're so proud of it. So.
I can't wait to see it. Well, we'll see you at some point next. We've got a lot going on next weekend, but
Yes.
we'll get there at some
Good,
point.
good.
And definitely, because I mean, it's something I just love to be a part of. I would love to be there on Sunday when you have you
It's
you have your
wonderful.
service. I have been saying
it's not
I've
just
wanted
a
to do
service,
that.
but the church feeds the people who come to the service. It's a dinner
I
on the
think-
grounds.
Yeah, it's a dinner on the
too,
grounds. And if you've never been to dinner on the grounds,
It's
you just know what
awesome.
you're missing. I just want that for that throwback feeling of that's what I grew up with.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I've been in my mind just thinking I want to get there. So I don't know, maybe this will be the year we get to. So do the big invite again. Tell them the days, the times, the cost, and all of that before we wrap up. But we're about 5 after, so we're going to have to get on out of here.
It's July 17th, 18th, and 19th, which is next weekend. It's $10 admission. 12 and under are free. Come see us. We've got the wheat thrashing and the tractor pulls and the sawmilling and the horse pulls. So come and see us, and we so excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
And it's in Adams.
Adams, Tennessee.
I don't know if we said that. We just
Yes.
kind of assumed. It's
Sorry,
in Adams, Tennessee.
Oldest steam show in the South.
And it is. And I had uncles and neighbors that were a part of this for years. My daddy would, I mean, seriously, this is a big deal for West Kentuckians. They all come up, and a lot of folks will be there. You're going to want to be there. It's just fun. It's just fun. And the schoolhouse will have some vendors in it. Right.
Yes, in the gym.
And they have,
In the
is
gym.
it in the gym?
the gym.
But it's in the gym, but and they have a little bit of air conditioning in
Yes,
there. too,
they
so you
do.
cool off. But in restrooms, so all the things.
Yes.
It's a good time. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
so much for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us. We will have Stay Positive News in tomorrow. And again, a reminder, I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off. I've not left. I'm going to be around, but I'm not leaving the radio station. I'm just taking a break before school starts. Okay. But Lee Marie will be filling in for me starting on Friday until the week before school. But you'll see a lot of the normal programming will be in here, and I hope you'll join us. But again, tomorrow, staypositive.news. I hope you'll be a part of it. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a fabulous day.